This is Rukadowski, now in Bali, which is a lot different than Hong Kong, completely different than Hong Kong and the scenes unfolding there. But of course, the news does not stop. But I do have to say before getting into this video, Bali's pretty interesting. All the houses here look like a temple. Everything's very affordable. Even this place that I'm staying at, which kind of looks like its own temple, just 20 bucks a night. The taxi cartel runs everything. But hey, I can't complain. And regardless of wherever I am, the news does not stop. And as we know, the news is usually faked, controlled, and rigged. And that's why here we're going to provide you an alternative, independent coverage of all the important news that I probably missed during my coverage of Hong Kong. And that's why in this video, we're going to get into all the news that very powerful people want you to forget about, specifically surrounding the Jeffrey Epstein case, a new university study that contradicts the government's official story of 9/11. Gee, what a surprise there. Gee, who would have thought the government would lie about such a very important event in our history? We're also going to be talking about Mugabe, Bayer, Monsanto, the crashing US dollar and global economy, plus a lot more on an independent media organization that you could support by simply using a privacy-focused browser that not only hides your identity, blocks ads, but also rewards you in cryptocurrency for doing so. If you haven't checked out the Brave browser, I would definitely recommend you check it out, since with our affiliate code, you can not only save a crap ton of time, just like I did, but you could support independent media at the same time just by simply doing what you usually do. And trust me, I'm not lying here, this browser is definitely not just comparable, but in my opinion, better than the Chrome browser. Now, I wanted to start on a story that's not getting any media attention, but is very near and dear to my heart, specifically growing up in New York City and being there for 9/11. This story has a big impact on me, and this is very interesting to see how completely ignored this new information is by, of course, the US mainstream media, which directly contradicts the narrative that has been sold to us by the mainstream media and many, quote, establishment authoritative voices. People like myself, family members, victims, rescue workers were laughed at and called conspiracy theorists for not believing that official story. But now, after a 4-year study that happened at the University of Alaska that officially had a partnership with architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, an organization made up of scientists, they came to a conclusion, looking at all the data points, all the evidence, that there's no way WTC-7, the third skyscraper that came down on 9/11, could have came down and collapsed because of a simple fire, which the study found not to be true. The study specifically did find that the collapse of WTC-7 happened because of what is determined as a global failure, which involved the failure of every column in the building at the same time. And you know, this is pretty important since this is the event that started the global war on terror, started, of course, regime change in the Middle East that brought upon the current disastrous situation that we're in right now, specifically with the creation of more radicals and support of Sunni Wahhabis, which, of course, we never went after, only supported and funded them, especially now with the new radicals that came out of that stupid decision, while creating a police state destroying our civil liberties because supposedly we were attacked for our freedom. This is a very important event that should have everyone questioning it, regardless of how much time has gone on, since this event still dictates our foreign policy and domestic policy when you look at the erosion of our freedoms. And when you see this article and when you see this new study that came out, the silence from the mainstream media on this really speaks volumes and just shows you how big of a complicit criminal enterprise they really are. Now talking about complicit criminal government enterprises, we have the latest information from Monsanto that was bought out by Bayer. Bayer now is in major trouble because of Monsanto and their use of a weed killer that many people in the scientific community and individuals have found linked to the creation of cancer. You know, a multinational corporation that was head of the FDA that had a rotating position between CEO and the government agency that was supposed to regulate it. Yeah, you know, that Monsanto that only got in trouble after it was bought off by a German company. Well, now, even in Germany, it was announced that they will ban the use of this controversial weed killer by the end of 2023, creating a very awkward moment where a German company that is arguing that this is still somehow safe has been banned from Germany. Now the sociopaths, now the corporate executives at Bayer actually objected to this unilateral banning. I mean, just think of how much of a psychopath you have to be to argue for this still to be used. But their pleas fell on deaf ears, joining, of course, Austria, the Czech Republic, Italy, that restricted the use of this weed killer already, with also the Netherlands and France planning to phase it out by 2023, which in my opinion seems like the rational thing to do, since, of course, many people have suffered greatly because of Monsanto's crimes. Now moving forward with criminal enterprises, today also we learned about the death of former Zimbabwean leader or strongman Robert Mugabe, a man known for massacring and killing his opponents, rigging elections, creating the largest human history recorded hyperinflation event ever, leaving a country that was previously known as the breadbasket of Africa into complete and utter poverty. And with him dies a legacy of just the most abhorrent corruption that you could ever even imagine, with this former ex-president having a $1 billion property empire, which of course his wife and his flamboyant Instagram-loving children still take full advantage of with their Jordans, lavish lifestyles, and partying, with the kids posting such humbling and inspiring messages on social media, like this one talking about a $60,000 worth of jewelry on his hand, with the caption, quote, "When your daddy run the whole country, you know?" Yeah. So that's still happening on social media. And again, this story is important for me since, as you know, we've been to Zimbabwe ourselves and did on-the-ground reporting there just last year with the dollar vigilante, Jeff Berwick, just after Mugabe was ousted from leadership, with his friend taking over his role. And the whole trip was an extremely interesting learning lesson into just how awful and corrupt government can be, which I definitely recommend you watch, with this video being linked in the description below. Or you could just type into YouTube. You won't believe what we saw in Zimbabwe. Now moving forward, in other large state corrupted institutions, we of course have news about more privacy leaks coming from Facebook, as millions of users just had their phone numbers publicly leaked, while of course Facebook promised to have all of that information hidden. And gee whiz, what a surprise by our tech overlords that they're not doing what they're saying they're going to be doing. Another too big to fail because they're corrupt institution news, we have other interesting developments coming from statesman Ron Paul, who said that gold will go to $3,000 per ounce by the end of 2020, and the dollar will fall sharply. All of this as he also pinned an op-ed saying, quote, "Forget about Russia. It's the Federal Reserve seeking to meddle in our elections." And in response to all of this, I have to say, yeah, he's right. In other news, Trump is also allegedly considering using private information from big tech companies, specifically Amazon and Apple, to determine if citizens should have the right to own a gun. Now, of course, this is a controversial report that's being questioned. White House officials are denying this, even though many reporters, even hard-line Trump supporters like the Daily Caller, are running with this headline. So someone is lying about this specific information. Who it is exactly, we cannot say because we don't have any evidence proving either side was wrong here. But what do you think? And do you think Trump is actually considering something like this? What are your thoughts? What are your opinions on this very important specific matter? I would love to hear them in the comment section below, where we can have a bigger conversation just about this specific issue. Now moving forward with other news, geopolitically specifically, we have a new announcement by Russian President Vladimir Putin that he will now produce new missiles after the demise of the nuclear pact that he had with the United States. That, of course, ended last month. That, of course, we criticized Donald Trump for doing so, which only builds up the arms race, which keeps the U.S. military-industrial complex very happy as world powers are at each other's throats, which, in my opinion, they wouldn't be if the neocons weren't running the show here. All of this is happening on the backdrop of Russia having more military success in Syria, as they're prepping their soldiers for a final assault on Syrian rebels that were previously supported by Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the United States, putting an end to a bloody civil war, but most importantly, a proxy war that happened between the United States, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and of course, Russia, China, Iran, and the current Syrian regime, which geopolitically the United States lost. And now in other news that completely makes no sense at all, we of course have the latest developments surrounding Jeffrey Epstein, the man that many elites want you to forget about. But we're not going to let that happen, especially here as independent media, as we are finding out that over 1,000 people connected to Jeffrey Epstein in his address book will soon be publicly named, as well as his victim list, as over 10,000 pages documenting his specific case have been made public. Many people are sharing those documents and going through them as we're speaking right now. Now, close to 1,000 people is a lot of individuals who are connected to this man. And I need to remind you, this is a man connected not only to politicians, not only to Donald Trump and Bill Clinton, but Henry Kissinger, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the elites of the elites, including even Fidel Castro and the Pope. Like, this man has pictures of him hanging out with the Pope and Fidel Castro as he was a known pedo. There's still anonymous figures, most likely someone powerful, very, very high up in the criminal government enterprise, that is still fighting to keep his name out of all these court documents. I still personally have not seen an update to this specific individual who wants to be secret, but as we know, British royalty is actively involved in this entire matter, including the cover-up, which many mainstream media publications are playing an active role in, specifically around Prince Andrew, that is denying a lot of these explosive allegations against him, even though there's photos and videos of him with underage children, with, of course, Jeffrey Epstein himself. He has succumbed to a lot of public pressure and has even turned off his comments on Instagram surrounding... He has an Instagram? Why does this man have an Instagram? Holy cow, this man should be banned officially from Instagram, just alone on his connections to Epstein. This alleged Duke of York probably loves his groom of the stool. This alleged Duke of York is again seen so many times with Jeffrey Epstein, and still somehow just magically just didn't know anything that was happening, wasn't aware of anything, including the fact that there was very young children somehow always around. Gee whiz. And again, just like the New York Times even reports with their own journalist saying that Jeffrey Epstein told me he had dirt on powerful people. Now, of course, this leads to many conclusions. Maybe Jeffrey Epstein could even be alive somewhere, because if he had a lot of evidence on powerful people, you would definitely expect some kind of kill switch to be activated. But again, this is all just speculation. We just need to stick to the facts here, including the fact that his model scouting pal also disappeared without a trace, creating, of course, more mystery surrounding this very important issue that, again, just becomes stranger by the day, with, of course, very powerful people being so desperate that even when many people were predicting the supposed murder of Jeffrey Epstein, they still pushed forward with this plan and showed the world how brazen and criminally in charge the most powerful people in our society are. You know, there's something to chew on just a little bit, something just to think about. especially as you go about your day, trying to understand how our system works. So yeah, that is the news for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, share it with your friends and family members, because definitely YouTube won't recommend this video, won't highlight this video. It's probably going to be manually confirmed like most of the videos beforehand and demonetized. But hell, you know what? I still do what I do because of you, because of your donations, because of you sharing, because of you watching all the way up until this point, which means a lot to me, and that's why I try to end almost every single video by saying, love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on WeAreChange.org.